Hi, and welcome to the Deep Roots Podcast. We're so excited to be with you today to teach you a little bit more about agriculture and the research and teaching and innovation going on in the Animal and Food Science Department in the Davis College of Ag Science and Natural Resources at Texas Tech University. Our guest for today is Dr. Jhones Saturi in the Department of Animal and Food Science. Dr. Saturi is an associate professor of beef cattle nutrition and rumen metabolism and a faculty fellow in international affairs, exploring the impacts of agriculture on a global scale, both on students and the community at large. Dr. Saturi is passionate about teaching and his research, and we had a great conversation in this episode about integrating students into research programs and into innovative teaching ideas. Jhones has a great personality and a great heart for people and for animals and for agriculture as a whole. I know I learned a lot from talking to Dr. Saturi, and I think you will as well. So join us for today's episode. I hope you stick around and learn a little bit more about growing deep roots in agriculture. Well, Jhones, it's so great to have you with us today. Thanks for giving us your time and coming in and being our first guest, actually, on the Deep Roots podcast.
What a honor. What a honor. Thank you for having me. So we'll do our best over here to share what we believe and what we empower other people to do.
That's awesome, and that's actually such a good segue. And we're still working on a tagline, and you may have just given us one. We'll credit you for it for sure. But just to get started, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Introduce yourself. What's your position here at Texas Tech? And what does that mean? What do you do here?
Yeah, great. I have a quite diverse background as far as professional formation, and somehow that at the beginning I thought that would make me lose focus, but that was perhaps a premature thought, or maybe an experienced thought at the moment. But so I'm a veterinarian, and I went to agronomy school for a degree, and then a animal science here in the United States. And when I was hired here at Texas Tech, it was a blessing position, I would say, in the job I got offered, because it was a new position, and I got the choice, or the opportunity to choose classes I would like to develop, and it was a new position. I wasn't replacing anyone, right? So there are pros and cons on that, sure. But for sure made me to grow roots within this idea and the research that I conduct, and involving teaching as well, because I had the chance to develop these classes, and most of them that I teach. So currently, right now, hopefully it doesn't come as a surprise, but I have an appointment as well at the Office of International Affairs. Okay. So 50% of my time, if we can frame it that way, sure, I spend at the Animal and Food Sciences Department in the Davis College, and the other 50% at the Office of International Affairs. So I have been enduring this very gladly, actually, this journey since last semester. And mornings over there, afternoons at my department.
Wow. So you're busy.
Always.
Very busy.
Yeah. I usually joke with my students, I have a blessing and a curse of having 3 offices. So Animal Food Sciences, our laboratory is actually here at the Food Technology Building. So I have an office here because it's the only lab that is out of our home department. And now more recently at the Office of International Affairs. So makes me focus. I guess that's the great thing, and it just add a little bit on the mileage, I guess, that I have to run to get to this place.
That's a good way to put that, actually. Yeah. Your odometer just clicks over as you're just going to work.
We have apps for that nowadays, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. So, you talked about some of the research you do and the teaching as well, but let's start with research. Mm-hmm. And I think I like the way you talk about it, for one thing, because they go hand in hand. They're not independent. Our research informs our teaching, and the way we want to teach informs the research we do, because we get to work with students and things like that. And I think that's awesome. But for those listening, tell us a little bit about your research. What do you work on? What are you trying to find out?
Mm-hmm. No, great. And I like the way you framed this to start to talk about this. I used to say that research is my passion, and teaching is my liquor. By the way, I don't drink alcohol, but my organism doesn't take very well. But I like the analogy, because it's something that for those that actually take that and go for it, is something that I really enjoy to do, and I merge my research into it. So I think my example was just terrible, but the point is, as a core goal or object or frame for my research, I could put in 2 words: digestive physiology.
Okay.
And when I first started to work, I used to use a beef cattle as a model only, right? Because come out of graduate school, a postdoc, and different places. I was in school for quite few years, almost 13, 14 years before I got this job, and that I can conduct research and lead a team and empower other people. So I used to use beef cattle as a model only, right? But as we advance in the career and as we start to collaborate with other people and go more cross-disciplinary, it is beautiful that we can engage with so many other researchers and other departments if we make our model to be more flexible to engage with other core objectives as well. So again, I bring digestive physiology on things that people invite me to do. And some of these things might be in areas that I don't have my feet wet as much as I would like. However, as a collaborator, I can bring the expertise, right? I can bring the expertise. So new technologies, management systems, everything that involves a animal digestive ability to use nutrients from ingredients and convert those nutrients to edible tissues or tissues that can be used to serve people somehow.
Okay.
It's my goal, right?
That's really interesting. And I think from an industry standpoint, you've sort of alluded to this already, but it seems to me that there are a lot of ways that this is very practical research, right? It has direct impacts on the lives of your students, of the community, of the ag industry in general, and just the general public. Can you speak a little bit to that? So, as you were talking about how your research works in digestive physiology, what does that mean for the average person? What does that mean for your students?
Okay, great. Yeah. So, and we think that actually within the research aspect, we have a basic research where we are trying to look at pathways of how nutrients are metabolized, and we have applied research as well. But regardless if our graduate students and the people involved with us are working on the applied side or to the basic side, at the end of the day, we need to build that overall picture, right? So if we understand how things are metabolized, how nutrients, let's bring things for nutrients. If we understand how nutrients are metabolized and which circumstances that make that nutrient to become more or less available, if we understand how those things happen, not just what happens, but how they happen, we can actually set up strategies on technologies that exist already for a long time. Allow me to give an example. Live yeasts, for example. So I do a lot of kinetics of digestion inside the cattle stomachs with a technology, with this live yeast. So live yeast has been used for decades on the food industry, on the preservation industry. So these microorganisms are very resilient, and they have the ability to transform ingredients and release nutrients based on that impact. And the animals, the host, we call the host, the animals are able to uptake more or less of these products of digestion.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? So this is not new. If you say, did you invent this? Did you discover the life? I say, no, I did not. Completely not, right? But what we do is we discover or we elucidate the pathways on how these microorganisms affect these nutrients. So then we can create new strategies on how to use them in our benefit. And by benefit, I mean we use less resources for animals for livestock that are consuming these nutrients. So then we can be more productive, we can be more sustainable, we can strive in environments that are challenging for life to grow, like semi-arid conditions or arid conditions.
Right.
So, and we are not reinventing the wheel. We are not discovering the new pill. We are not discovering the new bug, but we are discovering the mechanism of action so then we can develop these strategies.
That's really fascinating. So that's interesting. You know, you talk about how we look at the body of knowledge overall, and we take that as sort of the framework for what we do with scientists, right? We figure out how can we make those things better. I think that's really important for people to understand. And to that end, I think in science we're always working with the public, but also with collaborators, whether that be student groups or research organizations or growers or cattlemen or whoever, right? Can you talk a little bit about who you work with, not just the information you work with, but the people involved to get to that endpoint? And you kind of alluded to this earlier, but I'm just curious, like, what kind of partners are there? What kind of collaborators? What student groups and things like that?
Absolutely. So in several different, let's say, arenas. So in the scientific community, of course, right? So I'll navigate a little bit more out of that, but just I guess it's important to mention other universities, we throughout the graduate school tree or the connections we had through graduate school several years ago, but these research collaborations that we continue the things that we had in the past and for others that were created as well. So other universities as well. So we are not isolated, right? So we like to think that we compete on football with a lot of universities, but at the end of the day, in the scientific community, we are writing projects together and we are trying to discover solutions together. So that is real. That happens, right? So not only across universities, but also within different colleges inside the university, we always have the open mind to help colleagues on our area of expertise on things that are needed. But this would be, let's say, within within universities, right? But not only in this country, actually. So international collaboration, that's actually part of my job at the International Affairs.
Okay.
But community, let's bring a little bit community. And when we engage with them, it is important to mention that we put multiple frames for, and then it is difficult to just deal with research. So in my opinion, then we put together teaching, research, and outreach and engagement, because at the same time that we are working with associations, when we are working with producers directly, right? And these folks are not only supporting, promoting financial support for our research, but actually bringing questions for us. And we like to say that a good research will bring more questions than answers,
right?
And the ability to have this direct communication with the community open the doors for these questions. So then it takes us out of the little box of the science, which is very easy to get trapped to,
Sure.
And then we open our eyes on discovering solutions that are impactful to the community. When I say community, yes, local, Lubbock, but it goes beyond borders, right? So most of the work we do, it is applied to whatever the region that in the globe that it could that it finds a fit. So this community, so we strive strongly to have a global impact, and by doing that, we broaden this, we break this barrier of a state or a country, and we become more impactful. And we have to open our heart for that sometimes,
Sure.
because it requires a little bit extra time and patience, right? But making sure that we have this connection with the community, regardless if it is research, teaching, or the combination on outreach and engagement, brings life to the research, bring the ability for us to be current and face great challenges, right? And take us a little bit away from the trap of being too narrowed to one. There are some positive on that aspect as well, but it makes our perspective more broadened, right? And then we involve people with that, and that brings a little bit of the of the food that we need when we impact people's lives, and we can somehow professionally develop other professionals or people that are looking for professional development, and that brings the satisfaction. You're a researcher as well, and I think that is priceless, right? So it makes us wake up in the morning before the alarm clock goes off is because we want to go there and do more, right? So, and I think that the recipe there is the community. As more as you involved with the community, more it makes you to be empowered. So
I agree, and I think that one of our big challenges, and we'll talk about some more challenges here in just a second, but you made a really good point that good research leads to more questions and leads to hopefully good, meaningful questions. As we think about our challenges in research, as we think about the questions, I think one of the big things that we're always trying to answer, and you were alluding to this and talking about this, is the impact we have, and how do we figure out the impact we have.
Yeah.
But to get to that point, we have to find good questions, and we have to find good ways to answer those questions. So research is always challenging, and in my experience, and maybe that's just me, but when you're working with living organisms like plants or animals or people or whatever, things rarely go exactly the way you think they're going to up front. Can you talk about some of the challenges you faced in your research? Again, those are not always bad things, but...
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and several challenges in different scopes. So, one intrinsic to the research and dealing with live organisms and with animals, right? So it's the challenge is variability, and I don't like to allude too much on the funding because once you have a streamline, those usually become more available. But one of the things is that we are always concerned about is how we can professionally, use these models with live animals to make sure that we are achieving the objectives that we need, at the same time using the least amount that we have to use to conquer our objectives, but not underusing either, because then that would elude us to replicate, to do it again and do it again and do it again, right? So it's a narrow line over there that we walk through, because we are dealing with lives, right? And I work with animals, and we have animals under our responsibility, and they require a 24-hour care. It doesn't matter if it is Christmas or if it is New Year's Eve. It's our life. We work with them, right? And they're not just a tool for us. They are part of what we do and what we are. Yeah. So that brings a challenge, a very big challenge, because there is the psychological portion of it as well, because it's models that use animals we get very involved with. So, and we take that very seriously. So that's one of the aspects that usually don't show up when we are writing something or when we are trying to send that scientific message, but it is intrinsic to the process, and it is stressful, right? And it is stressful, I guess, as any other thing we do, right? So we always need to make sure we do proper care for that. But I would add as well as a challenge as how we can, as people develop their careers, right? We always have that in mind, that you need to conquer the milestones. You have to be present. You have to show your efforts, and it is very easy when, especially for younger researchers, but not only younger. I guess this could be applied for all kind of levels in a career. It is easy for people to get trapped within their own areas of expertise and just interact with people that that are talking within the same terms that they are and doing the similar research that they are doing. And as more cross-disciplinary we become, more impactful we are. We were just talking about this a little bit before. But it's challenging because you have to open yourself to a unknown arena, right? To a unknown schedule, to a unknown agenda, and to sometimes different funding sources that you're not used to. And it is change, I guess, is difficult for human beings, I guess. Maybe I'm too philosophic over here.
No, I think you're right on. We're not great at that.
Yeah.
But I think that there's something to be taken from that just as a general concept as well, that changes and challenges are not bad. There are opportunities in some cases to learn something new or to look at a research question in a different way, or a lot of different things. So I like how you talk about that a lot. So that kind of leads me into, as you find new questions and find new challenges, like what's next? Is there something on the horizon for you in terms of future research, of plans you have that, I don't want you to give away anything you're not supposed to, but overall, I'm curious what your next steps are in just sort of your whole research world.
Absolutely. I guess has been clear to me that being a little bit self-shown, or being more, how can I put this, tackling more of great challenges where we would need multidisciplinary teams to solve these great challenges is definitely something that I have been on the route for a couple of years already. What is the disadvantage of that? Well, the disadvantage of that is then you become, perhaps if you're trying to promote yourself for some reason, that's not the path, I guess. So, but the point is we can be much more impactful working in these teams and bringing people through this same mentality that we can solve great challenges. For instance, if we are in a arid region, so water is limited. Water quality is a challenge. Sure. Can I bring this to the digestive physiology of it? Yeah, well, absolutely I can. That's what we write proposals for. But now, can I become just a component now of a great scenario where it's not only affecting the digestive physiology inside the digestive tract of these animals, but also people that own these animals, people that will consume the products that are produced by these animals, the land use, and the resources that now will be better utilized. You see how we get a great challenge and we become just a component of it? And in my opinion, that's beautiful. And if I can be involved in something like that, in solving a great challenge, and even with a smaller participation, I'm for. And a smaller participation, unfortunately, doesn't say less amount of time.
Right.
Because for these great challenges, you're going to invest literally the same amount of time, but you basically kind of disappear on that cloud of people willing to provide the solution or provide an insight about something. But I still prefer to be within the cloud and being impactful, right, than just trying to shine somehow in something that is not impactful. Yeah. And perhaps that my name would be brought first. And but what is how people's lives were changed because of that, right? I just posed that question at the end, and then if I see that I will be impacting people's lives in a better way, in a positively way, in a greater way, that's how I prioritize things, right? And the disadvantage of that is it takes time, right? It takes time as everything, and you need to make sure you don't quit in between. So
the longevity and staying with it is certainly can be a lot, but I mean I think that's what's a more noble goal than that. One, building coalitions and collaborations and making sure that everyone involved is involved in that there are multiple voices and multiple thoughts involved. I think that's really cool. So as we sort of wrap up here, we've talked a lot about impact and we've talked a lot about what this means, and we have listeners from a wide variety of walks of life. Some that are more initiated in agriculture and know some of the science behind it, and some that don't. And so I guess the question I want to leave us with and leave you with is, if there was one thing or a couple of small things or big things that you would want the listeners of this episode to take with them? What's the take home that you hope they get from this conversation?
Oh, absolutely. I guess, and again, as the overall picture, that it always has to be there, right? So because that's the way that we lose focus if we. So let me leave you with this. With this message is. Everything we do, it doesn't matter the job we do, and we love to work with research. We love to empower people. We love to develop these professionals that will be researchers in the future. But regardless of that, whatever we do, I guess the question we should ask ourselves is, are we making somebody else's life better? Are we making somebody else's life better? And are we doing our best to make that a reality? So if you apply that to any type of job, and you won't be able to find an exception for that, especially in research. Are we doing our best to make somebody else's life better? And this is research for me, because everything we do, regardless if it is basic or applied, at the end of the final objective is for the society, is if it is not directly related to the product that they will consume, is related to something that will yield that product. So, but at the end of the day, what we are trying to do is to improve people's life. So, quality of life, perhaps. So, are we making somebody else's life easier or better with the things that we do every day? And if you have this in the back of your mind, I guess it will dictate priorities for you in a automatic mode, in an automatic transmission mode, right?
Yeah.
And that involves personal life and professional life as well. So it will definitely dictate priorities if you have this. So
I think that's a good priority to have and a good focus. Well, Jhones, thanks so much for coming in and talking with us. I think I've learned a lot. I think I really like your perspective on research and the impacts it can have on the community and our students and everyone in between. So thanks for your time. Thanks for your knowledge. And we appreciate you being a part of this.
My pleasure. Always available.